So, well, first of all, we are in my main bench area here where I do obviously most of my inlay stuff, some office stuff kind of, and all the assembly, wiring, all that stuff happens right here. I'm working on a handful of inlays right now. Got a couple of cave drawings, petroglyphs, a flaming sun. Got kind of a fun little werewolf action. I started this whole thing because I wanted to build a bass guitar for myself. I started playing bass when I was 14, really not knowing that that was going to happen. There was a group of friends that I'd gone to grade school with that just, through how childhood goes, you drift apart and then you come back together. And it was this group of friends that had a full band with no bass player. They even had groupies and roadies and the whole 9 yards, but no bass player. It says, well, you're hanging out, go buy a bass. Apparently I had an aptitude for it because it just felt natural. So through time, there was a company in Santa Rosa that were doing the first sort of quote unquote handmade instruments, and they were pretty much all basses. And 3 of them showed up in Edmonton at the hip music store up there. And I was so taken. So I thought, well, I'm going to design something that I'm going to have somebody build for me. So I started drawing this and drawing that. And that led me to seek out other people that were doing new things with instruments. And somewhere along the way, I just had this idea that maybe I could try this myself. Maybe I could figure this out myself. So I signed up for an introductory cabinet making course, thinking that would lead me to some rapport with the tools and wood, and then I could tackle this project of getting this bass. And so I did a little bit of freelance stuff for that, and then I met some guys, musicians from Arcata. We played together, and I moved down to play music. That was my initial intention, was to leave the woodworking behind, go and be a musician again for a while. And when I got here, down in the south part of town was a little funky little guitar shop called Moonstone Guitars. And so I pounded on their door for a while, and I said, you have to let me in. So it took a little convincing, but they took me on, and that I was just over the moon. I was in a place where I could learn how to make that bass guitar for myself. Moonstone was great, and we had fun doing it. We had just had a really fun time. And I stayed on in the shop pretty much after everybody cleared out. And I stayed on in the shop and started my business in that shop in '86. So I'm still here all these years later building custom hand-built guitars. Well, there was one that I did with James, I think it was finished about 1.5 years ago, where when they first moved from LA to San Francisco, they lived in the East Bay, and the garage that they played in, it was, later after they moved on and everything, the place was sold and the garage was torn down. Somebody saved a bunch of the wood from that garage. Because it was a very, very influential time. They had moved to join this one bass player. They wrote a couple of their biggest albums in that garage. So it was a very, I think they even did a recording, some kind of garage tape recording. And so it was a very influential, very pivotal time in their evolution. So to get some of the wood from that, they wanted to do something special with it. So they called me up and said, can we use this wood to make a guitar? And it was pretty funky stuff. Yeah. It wasn't nice weathered barn board from the exterior. It was the nasty stuff from the interior, from the bones of the garage. So it took a little experimenting in this and that, but used that, put some of the old rusty nails in there. The inlay was drawn by a friend of mine in Serbia that told the story of the move with Cliff and Cliff dying and the albums, and beautifully done. He came back in 3 days with this whole thing. I showed it to James. We're good. Yeah. Then I saw some guy in England who takes coins and engraves them and turns the heads into these skulls. I'm like, this is perfect for these guys. So we got Peter in Serbia to do the artwork, sent the coins over to England, and they turned out fantastically well. And I made a panel of the garage wood on the back of the guitar and then mounted the 4 coins on there.
Wow. Cool.
So, and he absolutely loved it. He just, everything about it, I did some stuff to make sure it would sound good and everything. So that was a pretty rewarding project.